Hello and welcome to our new addition to the battle commentary series. In this match we are gonna see a battle between Germania on the right side and Parthia on the left side. This match is gonna be rather interesting because the Germania is going all defensive. As you can see, their main battle line is our spearmen. Obviously, he came prepared according to his enemy, while his opponent has tons of cavalry, meaning we are gonna see some pretty intensive micro. So right now, because we are watching it from the Germanian player perspective, we do not know what other units might be hiding in this forest. So let's continue and see how it plays out. At first we see the Parthia placing his units somewhere behind it. The Parthian player is going for a flanking move on the Germanian player. Germania is making a forward move. He is putting his soldiers up front. We see some interesting army builds here too, because Germania usually has very strong sword infantry, but Germania didn't bring any. But I guess the idea was to know your enemy, because the enemy Parthia's strength is not in their infantry but in their cavalry, and the counter for the cavalry would be, well, spearmen. Now we see an interesting move here. Now let's stop it for a second. Now, as you can see, the Parthian player is making a move to flank from both sides. He has dispatched a column to attack the Germania's left flank, while on the right flank we see a counter move against the Parthia. Germania is sending their spearmen to counter these cataphracts and archers to support them in any kind of melee combat. Let's see how it progresses. Parthian player is sending support to his right flank. He sees some positioning on the left. Let's see how it goes. And we see that the Parthian player has revealed the rest of his troops inside this forest. Now, what Germanian player could have done was use these light cavalries to scout out these archers and attack them earlier, but he would most certainly have lost, because the enemy's heavy cavalry would have annihilated them within a matter of seconds. So he should have scouted, but he didn't. That might cause him a little bit of a loss of coordination. We'll see how the match progresses, though. It doesn't seem like a big deal. Okay, we see the Parthian player is moving to behind the Germanian lines. I believe the Parthians' plan is to attack with archers from front, and from the flanks with these cavalries, and with these cavalries from behind. And we see that the Parthian has made a huge mistake. He has left his archers completely undefended. And so the Parthia realized that and is using all of their firing forces to counter the enemy cavalry. And we have an engagement. Germanian light cavalry are currently engaging the enemy archers. As you can see, they are already wavering, and the first group is broken. But the light cavalry do not have much of an endurance or health. Because of that, they suffer heavy losses almost instantly. Which I would like to also remind you that light cavalry at this moment in this game, especially Germanic scout riders, are almost completely useless. As you can see, even if you intercept a archer unit, they can't do much. I mean, if it was like noble riders, a heavy cavalry, he could have annihilated all of them, but with just a few rain of arrows, all the cavalry has been decimated. That's just humiliating. And now we see another intercepting move from Germanic player, and he has intercepted his enemy's noble blood cavalries. The Parthian player is trying to disengage, but he fails. We have a huge engagement over here. The first noble blood cavalry have routed. Two of them are wavering. The Germanian player is sending his spearmen as a support, but they will not be able to arrive because the enemy has already been routed. He has overestimated his enemy. But even with that, he did not pull back all of his spearmen. As you can see, two of these are still covering them. Now he has, we see this unattended longbow hunters over here. Both of these cataphracts could have taken them. On the right flank, there hasn't been much of an engagement, but Parthian is anxious to engage, but he is coming to Germanian pikemen. That doesn't seem like it's going to end good. And we see some archer duel over here. Germanian player is going to intercept. Right now, the left flank of Germanian player of Germania is completely free. Now, I think he has used his noble riders to stop these three. At this moment, the Parthian could have withdrawn them and attacked these archers, but he didn't. And we have just saw a very big mistake on the Parthian's part. He used his general to hold these spearmen, and we see that these spearmen are holding and fighting against these two royal cataphracts, but he has managed to take away this royal cataphract out of the way. Now the right flank of Germanian player is in a huge trouble, while the Parthian player is winning the archer duel over here because he has many more archers. But from the left flank, as you can see, the enemy is converging on them. So right now, what the Parthian player needs to do is act quickly and disperse of these archers as soon as possible. Just hit and run, and then try to kite the enemy as much as possible. But it seems very unlikely because the Germanian player still has his cavalry all well and running. And we see another large mistake on the Parthian's part. He engaged these cataphracts with these, and so he lost his two other cavalry. Germanian player is using his archers against these noble blood cavalries. Parthian intercepts, but fails and charges into the enemy spears. We see the cavalries are attacking enemy archers over here. As you can see, the Germanian player could have just attacked the enemy melee units, but he instead chose to attack archers, which is a good idea because it is a good idea because if he had lost his cavalry, it would have been very hard for him to catch these archers. Meaning the enemy could have played for a draw, or could have kited the enemy and then could have even won, could have turned the match around. But as you can see, Parthia is very micro-intensive, and you simply cannot make mistakes, especially if your opponent has lots of spears. If you're fighting against Parthia, make sure that you're covering your vulnerable unit on all sides, or you'll get overrun within a matter of seconds. As you can see, they are not very defensible, these cavalries. Right now, the Parthian player is using his cavalries to defend his archers, but at this moment it's just pointless. he has lost way too many units, and after a few more losses, his units are gonna mass withdraw. They're gonna mass rout. As you can see, Noble Blood Cavalry is having a pretty bad morale over here. Speaking of which, I would like to talk a little bit about mass routing and general morale. And also, this is the reason why you should not use light units. The reason why you should not use light units, each time any one of your units rout, they reduce the morale of the other units. This means even if a unit was going to win, let's say sword infantry is fighting against spearmen, and even though if they had a number and strength advantage, with a worse morale, they are going to lose. The swordmen are going to use, even though they are countering that unit. That is simply because you have failed with the morale management. This is why you need to protect your light units, and also you cannot just sacrifice your units. This is also what it means. After a while, you can see mass rout, which is when enough of the units rout, the total morale of your units will become 0, especially after a general's rout. After that, your units automatically rout, even if they weren't in an engagement. In that case, you automatically lose. You just can't do anything. As you can see, these fully healed royal cataphracts here had 60 numbers, and they could have done a lot more damage, but all of their other units have ran away. They simply didn't have any other chance. I mean, let's see the reason for the rounding. The army losses. The army has suffered way too many losses, and this unit's morale has been utterly broken. This is what this game is about. Usually RTSs are about just killing as many units as possible, but here, what you're trying to do, you're trying to damage your enemy's morale as much as possible. You're just trying to scare him off. You're trying to rout him off. Even if the enemy has like very high morale, such as royal cataphracts or any other elite unit, they will still rout. As you can see in some of the tips during the loading screen, in a perfect battle you would not even have to fight enemy's elite units. Well, perfect battle almost never happens, so you should ignore the elite part, but it is true, you do not have to kill every enemy unit. Just kill enough of them and kill the right ones, and the enemy will rout. As you can see, the Germanian player has just... And this is pretty much it. I mean, as you can see, when you're fighting against Parthia, what you need to do is you need to cover your flanks and always counter every move that your enemy does. Your enemy, if you're playing against Parthia, your enemy will have micro advantage. They'll usually have cavalry advantage because Parthia is always good with cavalries and archers. Because of that, make sure try to always defend yourself, and when you see the chance, try to take out their archers. But in case of a good player, he will also be defending his archers. In that case, you'll just have to make sure that there are no weaknesses in your defensive line, and that time is on your side. Basically, if you have the ranged advantage, if you have that advantage, if you over time doing more damage than you're receiving, in that case you should just continue doing that. You should not make your enemy move. What else? Always cover your units, and always, if you, for example, don't have this debug free map, always use this minimap. Before I unlock the debug map, I always use this. Even though on big monitors it's kind of annoying to look over here, even though the game is pretty much like a large map. And well, that's pretty much it. Just Just put yourself beyond the possibility of defeat and wait for your enemy to give you a chance for it. Okay, that will pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good night.